Do you have, kind of pivoting a little to,
Mhm.
um, you have a wife, you said you had a wife, you have a family, I'm assuming. So, how do you kind of, being self published, what's your, do you have any routines? How do you stay disciplined? How does that kind of work, especially with family life? There's lots of pressures there and lots of different time commitments. So, how does that kind of, how do you get your writing in, I suppose, is maybe the question.
Good question. So it's changed dramatically.
Mm.
I've got a little girl, and she's about a year old, and so I
Say
wrote.
first.
Yeah,
Yeah. I've one daughter, she's 9, and so it's a never-ending ride, man.
it's an amazing experience,
Yeah.
to watch them grow and learn and think. To watch
Hmm.
them really truly think and make decisions for the first time is really fun.
Yeah.
So I think with having my daughter, I've come to appreciate that, in some ways I'm writing stories for her in hopes that
Hmm.
someday she'll pick them up and read them and think, "Wow, Dad, you wrote this?" And I'll say, "Yeah." Or
Yeah.
she'll look at them and say, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I'm not
She won't
touching
appreciate it all, or yeah. It seems like they're either gonna love what you do or have just complete like apathy towards it. Like, yeah, we just, well, I don't know,
those."
Dad does the thing.
Yeah, well, I listened to an author interview. I think it was Mark Greaney who wrote The Gray Man, and he was saying like his kids don't even look at his books. He's like
Yeah.
one of the most famous thriller authors in the world.
Right.
So sorry to go down the tangent, but how do I find the time, or what is my routine? It's changed quite a bit, obviously. So the start of my day is usually dedicated to taking care of her and getting myself to work, or spending the day with her on the weekends, and my wife. And generally speaking, I do my best to find time after she goes down for the evening, little
Hmm.
tidbits of time. And then on the weekends, usually I try to block an hour and a half to work on either the craft or the business side of things. So usually it's a couple of days, a couple of nights during the week, and one or two sessions on the weekends, and
Yeah.
just pick away.
Yeah, that's great. I think, there's so much. The thing you hear a lot, I think, is, you got to write every day. You got to set a time that's at, 5 a.m. every morning. You're writing for an hour, and I think what I found, when I first started writing, tried to follow some of that advice. And what I found is just life just gets in the
Mm.
way of that, and so finding just those times where, well, tonight after bed or during lunch this day, or I think that's more natural and normal for what people can actually do.
Oh, wholeheartedly agree. I'm reading a nonfiction, Slow Productivity by Cal Newport. I've been a
Oh,
big fan.
it's on my nightstand. I've been reading it. I'm almost at the end.
Oh, it's fantastic. I'm maybe three quarters. Anyways, when he talked about seasonality
Hmm.
and forgiving yourself for not sticking to some of those things, it really resonated with me. I think I wrote in the book the seasonality of what I do now, and or my plan is I'm going to write books, I'm going to edit books, and I'm going to publish them and sell them.
Hmm.
Those are the seasons that I follow. I don't think it's one thing. It's many things coming together. I write as much as I can. I went on a
Hmm.
vacation with my wife and little girl, and I was able to write every day. It was fantastic. I wrote a whole novella, and then I
Hmm.
came home, and then I had to do the editing, on the weekends or in the evenings here and there, and that's fine, and that'll take a couple of months. But I don't subscribe to the everyday idealized version anymore, because it just, you're setting yourself up for, probably a little bit too much of a regiment to
Hmm.
find happiness in.
Yeah. So that giving yourself permission and grace to just do what you can when you can. And because for early on for a while, I remember really trying to stick to a, regimented thing, because I was like, well, this is what people are saying and I really want to get it done. And I think two things happened eventually. One of them was I feel like my creativity really took a nosedive because I just like I was forcing myself to write, and I feel like most of the stuff that I forced myself to write, I ended up getting rid of or didn't like or whatever. And then the other thing was I was just driving myself crazy. Like I would,
Mm.
I was really like, I didn't write today, so I'm a bad person, or like that mental game of, well, I didn't do it, so I failed. Um, and neither one of those things is very healthy, I don't think.
Yep. Yep. No, I absolutely agree with you. It's like setting up the parameters for what you want to end up with and giving yourself enough time to get there. So,
Yeah.
book two is after I finish editing the novella and get it into a good state. I start writing book two, and that'll take me months.
Hmm.
It's about the long haul, right? The
Hmm.
writing a book takes forever.
Hmm.
And so you just pick away at it. I know lots of authors write in spurts. They'll
Hmm.
write, a book in 3 weeks, and but the work that goes into the editing, the work that goes into the crafting, the picking of the cover art, all those things take a very long time. So writing is a long game.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned Cal Newport. I love all of his books. They're all, I don't know how many of his you've actually read. Um, but yeah, his books are really great, and the slow progress. Most of them have been helpful to me, but not to go on too much of a tangent. But the slow productivity one that is has kind of the same, like reinforced for me to have permission to like, if you're in a busy season of work, it's okay to set it aside for a minute, and then once you have time again, open it back up to having a season where you write a lot. I think I was already kind of doing it naturally. Even like one week, I will just write all the time. Like I just am
Mhm.
really motivated to do it, and then the next month I struggle. Like so. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned him because I his books are great. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I found him a couple of years ago with Deep Work, and so good they can't ignore you, and
Hmm.
I've been a big fan ever since. I
Yeah.
think there's this like mystique around writing and art, and I'm a big fan of Pressfield as well, Stephen Pressfield and the
Hmm.
Muse and Resistance, and there's this thought process that some of us are naturally gifted.
Hmm.
We're touched by the Muse, and we can kind of channel this art, but really the truth of it is these are skills that you can build.
Yeah.
And that's like, it took me a long time to sort that out in my mind, like in writing, that the reason that NaNoWriMo is a lot of fun, challenging but fun, is because it forces you to work on writing and
Yeah.
write a lot. And that is what ends up becoming a good story.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And just that idea of like, um, when people say like you can grow up and be anything you want to be. That's true if you work really hard at it.
Yeah.
You know, like I
Yep.
can't grow up and say I'm going to be a football player unless I really go out there and I work very hard at being a football player. And so that's like the key thing of like if you work really hard at it for a long time.
Yeah, and there's limits, right? There's always limits to the time that you have, the access that you have. You can make do with a lot, but there's always, there's going to be choices and sacrifices you need to make to get to where you want to be, and building those skills takes a long time, no matter what the path you choose. Like you
Hmm.
mentioned, if it's being a football player, that means going to the gym, that means running, that means studying plays. There's everything that you choose to do will take something to be successful in.